Okay, a little bit about wearing this sword. This is an obi, and it should wrap around your waist 3 times. Maybe in another video I'll demonstrate how to wear this. But this is not like a karate or taekwondo obi, okay? It's designed to hold this thing in place while you're moving around. So when you place you'll find there are 3 folds, and this goes between the second and the third fold when you put it in your obi. Now, different schools have different way of positioning this sword. I've seen it a myriad of ways done in doing that. But typically what you'll find at the stance that you're in is known as Sangaku Dai or triangle stance. This is the basic sword stance. Some schools teach that the butt of the sword, or kashira, okay, should be in line with your center and your center line, okay? Some schools teach that the suba or guard should be in line with your center. Different schools have different ways of going about it. It's neither right or wrong. It's just unique to that particular school. But at any rate, from the side, the sword should be about a 45-degree angle in relationship to the butt of the sword, or in this case, the suba or guard. Now, if you notice that the position of my hand can either be the thumb at, I would say, 12 o'clock, or the thumb at 3 o'clock. Different schools have different reasons as to why it's like that. If the thumb is at 3 o'clock, it's very hard that when you release the sword from the sheath to see what's happening. So this is all about strategy, okay? Now, the question is, should you pull or push the sword out of its sheath? And in relationship to the sheath, how much does the sheath or saya move? Okay, so typically this is what happens. Okay, depending, you notice my forearm is almost parallel to the floor and what have you. Okay, now what happens is this: you release the sword from its sheath. Okay, you will see some schools actually do this, and as the sword moves forward, the hand drops and the sheath moves to the rear, and then you have this position, which actually should be a cut. But most schools, when they do this movement, when they do this, they tend to be very laxed as to bringing the sword to chudangamai, or middle position. So often I would see this happens. And this is very relaxed. Well, actually, the truth is, there is really no such thing as a sword draw. Really, if this thing is done properly, it's a cut, okay? So there's really no such thing as drawing the sword. But at any rate, what we're going to look at here is whether the sword is pushed or pulled out of its sheath. So from this position, okay, you will either see this, and as the sword moves forward, the hand drops. Or from here, you would simply just see this. This should not be a very obvious movement. If anybody reached for the sword like this, you lose your arm. So you want to keep your elbows in and reach for the sword in a very, straight line, simple manner, okay? If you pull the sword out of the saya, this is going to be your hand position because you're pulling. If you're pushing, okay? So the sword is pushed out of its sheath, not pulled. This is a sign that somebody don't know what they're doing, okay? And the strategy here is weak, all right? Now, in terms of pushing the sword out of the saya, if I push the sword out of the saya and just without moving the sheath or saya, I can only go about so far. Anyway, the rest has to be this. Pushing the saya back and down so that the blade clears the saya and I initiate Kiryu Rosh or downward cut. Okay? So that's the idea here. Okay? Now, again, this is what happens. 1, as I push, you notice this is what's happening. So this is just as important. Now, some schools pull it straight back so that the saya is sticking out, and some schools go down. And the reason for this particular skill is that if you're moving around in a group of people and the sword is like this, you'll be banging into people, okay? So straight down is probably, from a tactical point of view, probably a little bit more efficient. That depends on the school, okay? So, so that's the basic idea behind why you don't pull the sword as opposed to push the sword out of the side. So again, this is what happens in slow motion. Okay? All right, so that's the first phase of drawing the sword. Perhaps in another video, I will explain a little bit more detail about how to manage the sword in the saya so that you don't cut through the saya and cut your arm off. Because the way I see a lot of people drawing the sword, that's, you know, that's a no-no. If you have a sharp blade on your hip and you don't handle this thing right, you can have a problem. Okay? So, you will see that in Iaido, or in Korean, Guhap Bup, there's a lot of attention paid as to what's happening in this phase of the draw, because this is it. Okay? So as you move, again, it's here or here. Push. You push. And this is in what happens to the movement of the saya again is in relationship to this push. Okay? So that's it. All right? So there you go. Thank you.